Welcome back, my wisdom walkers. And for those of you who are new visiting my channel, Life Lessons Learned, in this video, I'm going to share some tried and true tips for parents. And these are some of the tips that are in my book entitled Seven Successful Strategies for Divorced Parents. Now, of course, you don't have to be a divorced parent to utilize these tips and techniques or strategies. They're for single parents, parents that have been divorced, parents that are still together. I mean, parenting tips work if you have children, okay? So it doesn't matter what your marital situation is. These are some tips that you may be able to use. Now, one of the first ones I wanted to talk about is having quality as well as quantity time with your children. Now, with today's busy workload, many of us don't have lots of time to spend with our kids, but we do want to have the time that we do spend with them be quality time. So I know in today's society, we're either like when we go out, we see families seated out at a restaurant and everyone's on their cell phones. No one's talking with each other. They're not communicating. And it's not everyone that's doing that, but you do see it often, and I see it a lot. Sometimes I'll even see grandparents with their grandkids, treating their grandkids to IHOP or something of that nature. And the kid is on the phone or playing a game, and the grandparents are just kind of there. Um, and I get it. When we have different generation gaps, it's sometimes difficult to merge that gap and communicate well with each other. But we all have a limited time here, so we want to make the best with our time. So the first thing, of course, is to have or plan events around your family's interests and around your child's interests that everyone can enjoy, or make a commitment if they do belong to a certain sport or are doing a certain activity in school, that you're able to have some input and encourage them and give advice and things like that. For those of you who did not see one of my previous videos when I talked about being honest with my daughter's lack of talent, you may want to watch that, because you do still want to be truthful, upfront, and honest with your child, especially if they need to hone their skills before going out in public. And there are ways to do that without being, mean or rude or disconcerting to them, or putting them in a position where they just don't want to try to improve, or they decide to give up on whatever it is that they were interested in. My second tip is to have great expectations for your kids, but that doesn't mean unsurmountable ones, okay? So, what I mean by that is, don't be comfortable, or don't allow your child to be comfortable with being just mediocre in everything that they do, not outstanding, not putting in all of their effort, but just simply saying, getting by, you know, good enough is not always good enough. Okay. So make sure that they have their own goals and objectives in mind, but also let them know that it's okay to have great expectations for themselves so that they can achieve more, um, learn more, and adapt their skills more to the areas that they want to be in. Now, that being said, you know how sometimes we have great expectations, or we have our expectations for our kids. So, for instance, if we were a great cheerleader and now we want our daughter to do the same thing, if they don't have an interest in that, it is never a good idea to try to live vicariously through what we want our children to do, or have our children aspire to be what it is that we had a passion or love for, if they don't also share that. Now, of course, if they do share that, then they've got a great trainer and mentor and coach in you, because you would have been there, done that, and you would have some tips and techniques and strategies that they can certainly implement and use. Now, that being said about great expectations, I also have to remind parents to motivate, not humiliate. So a lot of times parents when they're also excited or passionate about whatever sport or activity that their child is in, they somehow think that if they humiliate them publicly or privately, that that's going to make their whole game or sport better. And it doesn't. Humiliation only degrades, it takes away from our confidence, it makes us feel less than. And sometimes you would think that that would be like a self-explanatory one. But sometimes, you know how the coaches of the back in the day used to do holler and yell and scream and sometimes curse, and that's supposed to make the players get more riled up and more excited about the game. That kind of encouragement, if you want to call it that, does not work. It may have worked back in the day, and there's an argument about that, but it really helps to motivate in positive ways and to reinforce the good things that someone has done and their attempts and letting them see how they can improve on that or increase in that skill area. The next tip I want to share with you is have some type of an amicable, fair system when it comes to conflict resolution in the home. Now, many of you parents probably already know what I mean by that. You don't want to have some type of solution where the youngest one always gets their way because they're the baby or they're the youngest. You also don't want it to be the person that's the more academic one that's always getting their way because, well, they're smart. So, when you're thinking about conflict resolution, have some type of system in place where everyone has an opportunity to speak without interruption, where each party has to listen to what the other person is feeling, what they're saying, and why they're feeling that way, so that together as a family unit, you're able to have a resolution where everyone feels as if their voices have been heard and that there's some way, some ideas of moving forward when whatever that issue is will not crop up again, or if it does, you have a way of resolving that so that it doesn't get out of hand. This one, and actually, well, I'll talk about that with my girls and how I used all of these things to be able to incorporate for them when they were growing up. And the fifth one, the last but not least of my parenting tips, is to know, how do I want to say this? Because you hear this all the time and people think they understand it, but then they're doing just the opposite. So remember, it's not what we preach, it's what we teach. And some people are like, well, that's what's the difference? Well, sometimes we'll be preaching don't smoke when we're smokers. Okay. So our children do not learn what we say, they learn what we do. And I know that one seems a very simple one. And sometimes, I do have to say, sometimes they learn by what we didn't do. So, for instance, if you were a child whose parents, one or both parents were alcoholics, that may have taught you not to ever take a drink in your life. So sometimes some of the things that we do as parents teach our kids what they don't want to do in life as a positive moving forward, and that's a good thing as well. But overall, you want to be able to not ask any more of your children than what you yourself are willing to do. So those are the tips that I wanted to share with everyone. And just to let you know, I am a mother of three adult children. They're all girls. All of my girls have been independent since they were 18 years old. So they've lived on their own. They paid their, they've been responsible for paying their bills and, you know, their car note, car insurance. I never got calls saying, "Hey, mom, can you pay my phone bill for 3 months?" or "I'm about to get evicted. Can you help me out?" Um, any of those kinds of things. Now, there, of course, we're going to assist our children when they find themselves in situations where they do need assistance. But your main goal as a parent is to be able to raise them so in a way that they don't need necessarily outside assistance for basic needs. Okay. So you want to raise independent children that become independent adults and are able to take care of themselves and are not always finding themselves in some type of drama, some type of crisis, some type of situation where you have to swoop in and save the day. You have to remember there's going to be a day when you'll no longer be here. And my mother used to say, raise your kids as if you won't be here tomorrow. And by that, she meant make sure that if they're young enough, that they're um, the type of kids that are mannerable and respectful and people wouldn't mind taking in and taking over the parental duties for them, or if they're older they're able to survive and make it on their own without being financially or mentally or spiritually deflated. Now, of course there'll be times in all of our lives where we're like, how much more can I take? But overall you want to raise independent people that are able to contribute to society in meaningful, positive ways. This is Sherry. This is Life Lessons Learned. For my wisdom walkers, I know many of you are parents or grandparents at this point. Hello. I said hello as if I have grandkids. I do not. So, but I'm saying hello to the grandparents out there that do have grandkids and just looking back and seeing some of the things that you've done in your life with your children and raising them and seeing what they're doing with their grandchildren to make them independent contributors of society in positive ways. So please leave your comments below. This is Sherry. This is Life Lessons Learned. You know my mantra, knowledge is in the knowing, but wisdom is in the doing. So moving forward, just begin to apply the lessons that you've learned in life moving forward in all areas of your life and begin to see the difference that that makes for you as you begin to do so. As I always say, the proof of a lesson learned is the application of it. So, what lessons have you learned this last week, this last month, this last year that you will begin to adapt in your life so that you can make your life a much more positive experience, or at least begin to experience what you would like to in your life? I will talk to you guys later. Thank you.